anyone can be anything with AI. Your story is what sets you apart from everyone else. Your story is your history. It's your experience. It's your secret sauce. No one else has that. And so anyone can write anything on AI in terms of like how to market a business or how to, lose 10 pounds or whatever it might be. But your story is the connection. And especially if you are a service-based business, it is so important that you are sharing your story and you are storytelling, because that is what is going to set you apart from everyone else.
Welcome to How to Trust Yourself, the podcast for anyone who's done with the endless second guessing and ready to tune in to your inner guidance. I'm Anna Holtzman, and I get that feeling of trudging through life like you're wading through mud, trying to figure out which way to go. In my 20s, I spent more time asking what should I do with my life than writing about crushes or bad dates in my journal. I've tried on a lot of answers: architecture, publishing, editing reality TV for a decade, and finally landing on therapy and coaching, helping people like you connect with your purpose. But here's the thing I've learned through all those twists and turns. Trusting yourself is the key to moving forward, even when the path feels messy. So if you're ready to stop doubting yourself and start listening to your gut, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Welcome back, dear listener. Today's episode is for the entrepreneurs, creatives, and coaches out there, especially the sensitive ones like me, who want to share your work more boldly, but aren't sure how to market yourself in a way that feels authentic and grounded. My guest today is Lindsay Pinchuk, an award-winning entrepreneur, marketing strategist, and host of the Dear FoundHer podcast, which ranks in the top 2% globally. Over the last 2 decades, Lindsay has helped build some of the world's most well-known brands and founded a 7-figure business of her own, all by leaning into connection, community, and storytelling. In this conversation, we talk about how to build visibility without burning out, how to share your story in a way that feels empowering, not overexposing, and why community and connection are at the heart of any successful business. If marketing has ever felt like a noisy, overwhelming chore, or if you've been afraid to put yourself out there because it all feels too vulnerable, this episode will help you reframe what's possible. Let's dive in. Lindsay, I've been such a fan of you, been following you for a long time. It's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for making the time to be here with me and this audience. Welcome.
Thank you so much for reaching out and for having me, Anna. I'm so honored to be here, and I'm so excited for you to come back on my podcast in a couple days. So,
me too.
Very
I'm really
excited.
Looking forward. So for those listeners who are not yet familiar with you and the work that you do, what do you do and who do you help?
Yeah, of course. I think it's important for me to kind of dial it back a little bit. But I left corporate America in 2010. I had started a company to serve parents and parents-to-be as they were going through pregnancy. And it was called Bump Club and Beyond. And I grew that business from nothing. I mean, it was a $500 investment that I used to build a website. And I grew it to generate 7 figures in revenue for 6 years straight. And we were reaching 3 million people a month. We were working with brands like Huggies and Nordstrom and Target and like every baby brand. And we really were this community that connected parents and parents-to-be with the best products, resources, information, and most important, each other. And so I launched that company. I left corporate America about 9 months into launching that company, and I did it full time. I ended up selling it in 2019. I led its acquisition to a large agency holding company out of California that bought the company for my relationship with Target. And I was there for a couple of years, and I'm not shy to say that it was not an ideal situation. It was, I was very much corporately bullied. And at about the 1.5 year mark, I knew that I needed to leave. And so 2 years in, I made my exit. And when I exited, my goal was to help other women business owners. I really just wanted to support other women entrepreneurs really in not just finding success, but I built this company, I bootstrapped it, I didn't raise money, and I did it all through very simple organic marketing practices that anyone can do. And so I launched my podcast, Dear FoundHer. That was actually a passion project. It was just something I wanted to do. And through Dear FoundHer and through me simply talking about the fact that I was taking consulting clients and I was working with female founded brands, a lot of women small business owners were coming to me and asking, how can we work with you? And so through Dear FoundHer, I created a group mentorship called Marketing Made Simple for Small Business. I created an online community, a networking community called the Dear FoundHer Forum. And now I help women who are over 40 and they are business owners. And, I think women over 40 have a really unique and different set of skills than younger women who are starting businesses. We have more experience than anyone. We know how to multitask better than anyone. And we just don't want any of the bullshit. Like it's, no fluff, no gatekeeping. It really is just what works. And this community is an incredible resource and an incredibly supportive space for any woman who's over 40 who has a business or wants to start one.
So beautiful. And I mean, this is why I relate to your work, because I am a woman over 40 who started my own business over 40 and worked for other people before that. And I'm just taking a moment. I wrote down, you said that your first business was about connecting moms with each other. It's about connecting people with each other. And that's what you're doing now. And this is something that we as human beings always need. I mean, it's just a basic core need. And I feel like nowadays, more than ever, the world is so chaotic. It can feel so scary. It can feel so alienating and disconnecting when we turn on the news. And we need each other. Like this connection is not a nice to have, it's a have to have.
We do. And it's interesting that you say that because when I started Bump Club as an events-based business. I mean, you have to remember this was in 2010. Like social media wasn't even a thing. Like I had a personal Facebook page and maybe a LinkedIn page, but I started my business by sending an email to everyone I knew, which is still something that I do and recommend to business owners that they do, that is to email everyone they know. But the world is a different place now. And like you said, there's so many different platforms and digital outlets and whatnot. But I started Bump Club through events. And through these events, I watched women connect with one another. They connected over the similarity and the ups and the downs of being pregnant and then having kids. And I will tell you that I still see online today women who came to my earliest events with each other, going on trips. They made lifelong friends. And it was funny because when I left and I started this 2.0, it was kind of like we were coming out of COVID. So events really weren't a thing. But I did host an event kind of on accident in the summer of 2022 with a couple of other women business owners. And people went bananas for it. It was an invite only thing because we were still coming out of COVID. And people were like, when are you going to do this again? It took me about a year to do it again. But I said when I left Bump Club, oh my God, I never have to host events again. Like I said that. And then as I kind of started this, I was like, what's wrong with me? Of course I have to host events because that's where the real connection takes place. Whether it's virtual or in person, that is where people actually connect. And I do think, especially women over 40, want and need and yearn for that connection. And you can have it online. And I will tell you that in the Dear FoundHer forum, I have seen these women who don't know each other and don't live near each other connect with one another. They meet up when they're like traveling. A group of them is creating a trip that they want me to join them on later this year. I mean, they do see each other in person, but it really, I started hosting these networking events in Chicago, and the connection's crazy. And to your point, people want it.
People want it so badly. I know I want it. And yes, I mean, just being in person with people there's nothing like it. But also, online. I've met my business bestie through posting on Instagram thinking I was looking for clients, which I was, but I made a bunch of really, really close friendships that way. And I think when we hear the word business, we think impersonal, but business is really built on relationships, which is what your business is all about. And I want to ask you, I think you've hinted at this here and there, but most of us who go into business for ourselves and our business is, something that means something to us, it's because of some, pivotal personal experience that we've had or hunger that we've had in our own lives. And I'm curious if you could speak a little bit more to that.
Yeah, of course. So when I started Bump Club, I had the idea for it before I got pregnant, and I luckily got pregnant very quickly. And I ended up announcing Bump Club when I was 8 weeks pregnant and hadn't yet announced my pregnancy. But
Wow.
I had the idea for it and started it because I was a transplant to Chicago. We had no family here, and none of my friends were pregnant at that time. We all have eighth graders. Okay. So like I was just or rising ninth graders, but I was just the first one. I was the first one of the group to get pregnant. And, that it was a need for me. It was a need to find community and to find friends who were also having babies. My Bump Club bestie is, someone who I don't live in the same town as anymore, but she was one of my first customers. Our daughters were born a week or two apart. They're still good friends. And, and it was, we bonded over the fact that we were pregnant, and that was the connection, right? And that was why I started this company. And very similarly, when I left Bump Club and started Dear FoundHer, I think it was a little bit different because I don't know that I necessarily felt that I needed it, but I felt that I had this experience and I felt that I had this knowledge and I wanted to share it. And I wanted other women to benefit from the ups and downs that I went through. And I just found as a female founder when I was getting started, like it was an accident, right? Like I wasn't like I was never intending on like this being my path. And I found that it was very lonely. It was very, very lonely. And at first I had no friends who were business owners, and I really had to make a concerted effort to go out and meet other women who were in business. And I did. And luckily there are a lot of female/mom business owners in the parenting space, and they became my network. And, and I really surrounded myself with them. And it wasn't just doing business with them. It was going to lunch, having coffee, calling and asking for advice, and all the things that you would do with people who are, your quote colleagues, right? And so when I left, I knew that I really wanted to share that with other people. And I really wanted other women business owners to understand that, yes, they could do this. They don't need $1 million or 1 million followers. You really just need a lot of support and good support. And when we are supportive of one another, all tides rise together, right? Isn't that what they say? And it really is the truth. And so I think this second time around, what I do say about like needing the community is I don't think I realized how much I needed the community until like we were a year or two into it. And I was, 2 cohorts into my Marketing Made Simple cohort. I very much look forward to meeting with these women every single day. I'm meeting with my cohort after we podcast today. And, as much as I'm teaching them, I'm learning from them as well. And, I think that's what a community is. A community is a two-way street. And if you are a business, you have a brand, you should not be looking at your customers as an audience. They should be your community. And in both situations of my business, that has proven very successful for me.
A quick pause here because I want to invite you into something that I think could shift the way you feel about showing up. If you're a sensitive creative or entrepreneur, and the idea of being really seen and heard brings up fear, resistance, or that, oh no, not me feeling, you are in good company. My free visibility workshop, Let Yourself Be Seen, is all about making visibility feel safe to your nervous system and true to you. We'll explore how to work with fear as a doorway into more authentic self-expression so you can share the work that matters most to you without pushing, pretending, or burning out. You can save your spot or catch the replay at annaholtzman.com/ be seen. Okay, let's get back to the conversation. I love that so much. And I want to ask you about your community, your Marketing Made Simple community. You know, when people come into a community like that, you tell me if this is true for you too. I feel like when people come to work with me, oftentimes they think they want to learn skills and tools and strategy and blah, blah, blah. And that certainly can be part of the work I do. That certainly is a part of the work that you do. But I usually feel like at the underneath everything is, I feel scared and alone. Can you help me move forward while I feel scared and alone, and help me feel less scared and alone? And I'm curious, it looks like that resonates because you're nodding your head. Like, what are some of the most common fears or blocks that the women entrepreneurs you serve are facing? And how do you help them move through those fears?
You know, it's interesting because I started Marketing Made Simple about almost 2 years ago. It'll be 2 years ago in the fall. And I really started it because I was working with women business owners one-on-one, and they were paying me a really nice amount of money. And it was a 12-week situation, and I would meet with them once a week. But what I found was that I was literally telling them all the same thing. So it didn't matter if it was a photographer or a health coach or a doctor. I was telling them the same thing, and I was walking them through the same process. And so I was like, I need to figure out how to harness this in a group situation, because not only will it be more efficient for me and them, but they will learn from one another. And
Right.
so and so it's interesting also because I started Marketing Made Simple, and my first cohort went through the whole year. And about 8 months in, they started to panic. And they were panicked because they didn't want it to be over. And they were like, what are we going to do? And so that's why I started the Dear FoundHer forum. So really the Dear FoundHer forum should be the first place people come to interact with Dear FoundHer, because that's the networking community. And if you like it that much, and if you want more, then you could join Marketing Made Simple. But to answer your question, because I want to answer your question, a lot of the things that people come to me for and have a hard time with, and why it's called Marketing Made Simple, is that a lot of women who are over 40 in business are served a bunch of bullshit online all day, every day. It's like, get quick, get rich fast, 6 figures this, 7 figures this, 10,000 followers. That's not how you build a long-term sustainable business.
That's how you have a panic attack, is what that is.
And also, none of those things are actually true. And yes, maybe some of these people have had 1 or 2 successes with clients who have, seen 6 figures or 7 figures quickly, but those are anomalies. Building a business is not a sprint, it is a marathon. And if you want to have a business that lasts, you need to look at it that way. And you need to be creating foundational You need to create the foundation of your business through simple marketing steps, and you need to build upon that. So what I teach women is not to be afraid of social media. In fact, today on our cohort call, I normally in this lesson would be talking about something else, but I'm getting a lot of feedback from this cohort that they need a little extra help and assistance with Instagram. And so I'm going to be walking them through some basics with Instagram that it doesn't need to be fancy or a big deal, but just I'm going to show them how to make a reel. We're going to work on their bios. I'm going to teach them how to make 3-pin posts. Those are very simple things that anyone can do. And so I really like to break down these complex situations that people are having panic attacks about in their business and show them how to use the free tools to their advantage. And I also share that I think a lot of people come to me and they're like, but I don't have a following. Who cares? You don't need a following. You need people who believe in you. And you could make a very good business off of 100, 200 people. I really kind of break it down and show them the simple steps that you can take, not just on social media, but maybe by building a newsletter or through email marketing, podcasting with people, partnerships, publicity, using your website. all of these things are really imperative to your business, and you cannot put everything in the social media basket. A lot of people think like, oh, like I'm not going to dance on social media. I don't dance on social media. Like I actually show up in sweats 99% of the time, no makeup, hair in a bun, And so, and that is really what I try to share and teach in Marketing Made Simple. And that's why it's a year. It's a year-long cohort because we really break it down and do one little thing every week. And I give them homework and they do it to move their business along and they add to it. They build on the foundation. That is really important to me. The other thing I would say is that a lot of women come to me and they say, well, I have this idea or I started this business and I just don't know that I'm like suited for it. That there's a lot of imposter syndrome with women over 40. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that a lot of women over 40 are just not as tech savvy. You don't have to be super tech savvy to own a business. And the greatest thing about being over 40 is your experience. So it's really important to harness that experience and to showcase that experience. And oftentimes the women who come to me are building a business based on that experience.
Yeah.
And so like I would rather hire someone who's been in marketing for 25 years and knows the basics of marketing than a 25-year-old who who maybe knows social media but doesn't understand how to apply social media to marketing. Those are two very different things.
I love that. And, as I'm listening to you and as I listen to you on your podcast, I'm putting myself in the shoes of like your clients and your group members. And when I listen to your podcast, I am your listener. And what I always get from it, because I have worked for 5 years in chronic pain recovery, learning deeply about the nervous system. So I'm always, that's one of the many lenses of my years of different experience and different careers that I bring to everything. And I'm like, these fears that come up, which I can relate to as well as a business owner, like, oh, but I don't have an audience. I don't have enough followers, blah, 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 blah. Or like, I'm not tech savvy. Like, these are thoughts that come into my mind when I feel frightened. When I feel relaxed, those kind of thoughts don't even come up. When I feel relaxed and safe and calm, it's like, oh, why don't I try this? It's an experiment. Let me see what happens. And part of what you're doing is teaching technical skills and strategy, certainly. And I think a big part of what you're doing is you're like letting them lean into your nervous system of like, look, I've done this before. Like I've been on this road already. I can shine a flashlight in the dark so it doesn't feel as scary to you.
Exactly. And I don't want it to feel scary for anyone. It doesn't have to be scary. I think, when you think about starting a business, yes, it's scary, but you just have to get started and you just have to put yourself out there into the world and not be afraid to screw up or mess up or be messy. Not everything's going to be perfect. And I know it sounds cliche, but it is the truth. And I think at the end of the day, like I'm going to keep going back to this, like your experience speaks volumes and you are much more well equipped to do whatever it is that you're doing than you think it is. And, and I think like, I'm talking about life experience. I'm not just talking about experience in corporate America or in whatever professional role maybe you played. But when you are over 40 years old, you've lived for many decades and you've balanced different things and you've overcome different challenges. And all of those like fabrics of your life add up to who you are today. And it helps you with everything in business. I mean, there are a lot of things that I've learned not in business that I apply to business every day.
I think what you just shared leads really well into the next question that I want to ask, which is, it's about a question. So a lot of my clients ask me this question, like, how much of my story should I share? Like if I'm marketing my business and like you're talking about, it's all about building relationships, letting people get to know you. Part of that is telling your story. So when your folks come to you and they say like, how much of my story should I share? I'm afraid if I tell this about my story, maybe people aren't going to like it. Maybe I'm going to alienate people. Like, how do you walk folks through that?
So your story makes you you. And it's really important to share it. And anyone who knows me and who's been in any of my programs, or who, I mean, I'm sure even by following me, you know that I'm going to say this. Like, the number one thing that I tell my clients always is share your story. That's where I start. That's where I start in Marketing Made Simple. The very first thing we do is write your story. And the reason being is your story is the foundation for every other piece of content that you share. This is what you're going to come back to time and time again. It's your North Star. It also will change with time. My story has changed significantly even since last year. So, I make a concerted effort to change it in the communication and in the messaging that I share with people. But this is what I think is very important about your story. Your story is your connection to your community. It's what I call the bridge to transaction. And you have to share your story because people want to buy from people. They don't want to buy from a logo or a slogan or a brand. They want to know who's behind the story. And so it's really important that you share it, and you share. And when I say share your story, who are you? What do you do? How do you do it? Why do you do it? The why is the very big piece of it. Yeah. And then from there, yes, I say, like, share your story over and over and over and over again, but also story tell. So I think it's really important when certain things come up and maybe you have a thought or you remember something from 20 years ago, tell the story about it. Here's the reason why this is so important, especially right now. AI is everywhere, and I recommend using it. Use it to your advantage. We all should be using AI. But AI should not be writing your content for you. AI should not be creating, all of your messaging. It can give you some suggestions for sure, but anyone can be anything with AI.
Yeah.
Your story is what sets you apart from everyone else. Your story is your history. It's your experience. It's your secret sauce. No one else has that. And so anyone can write anything on AI in terms of like how to market a business or how to, lose 10 pounds or whatever it might be. But your story is the connection. And especially if you are a service-based business, it is so important that you are sharing your story and you are storytelling, because that is what is going to set you apart from everyone else. Did that answer the question?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It absolutely answered the question. And I want to ask a follow-up question, because I know it's on many of my listeners' minds, because this is what I hear from people is like, what I hear, and I certainly experienced this myself when I first started using social media to talk about my business and what I do, what I felt, because it was new and it was unfamiliar territory, was I felt like I was arriving as the new kid in 9th grade at a new school, walking into the cafeteria with my tray, looking around and feeling like nobody wanted me to sit at their table, and just anticipating they were going to start like throwing their straw wrappers at me, right? The anticipation is like, people are going to troll me or hate me, or I'm going to get negative comments. And I could see you about to say something. And
you have to just say, fuck it. Seriously. Sorry, am I allowed to swear?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yes, you have to just say, fuck it. Like, really and truly, like, especially like, I mean, I know all your listeners probably aren't over 40, but that's who I really market my business to, especially when you are 40, 50, 60 years old. We've lived lives, and like, you can't worry about what other people think about you. And I also think it's important. I'm a mom of 2 girls, right? So like, I need to teach them that they need to say fuck it too. Yes. And because I don't want them to worry about what other people think of them. I think you just have to show up and you just have to do it. And it's really hard at first. And it is, especially if you are not social media savvy and you have not been there. But these are tools that are free. And so if you're not using them, it's really doing a disservice to your business in so many ways. I mean, I could talk about this all day, but you just have to go with it. And you have to understand you're going to make mistakes, and you might put things out there that you might archive later, you might take down, and that's okay. You asked me before, and I think the one thing I didn't answer in the previous question was like how much to share. I do think it's really important to set guardrails and to have boundaries for yourself. And like, you don't have to be public about them, but just for yourself, like, what will you share and what won't you share? I don't share about politics. That's my guardrail. I share about both sides of the aisle, actually, as it pertains to issues that are important to me. But I don't talk about who I'm voting for. I don't talk about who I voted for. I mean, if you've been around long enough, you know. But I don't talk about it anymore. And that's a really big guardrail for me. And it's something that I really put a stake in the ground in the fall, and I did not talk about it. And so I think it's really important to understand those boundaries and guardrails for yourself. What are you comfortable with? What are you not comfortable with? I also think it's important to embrace some things that maybe are a little bit controversial to share, because that's what makes you you. And that's what allows people to know who you are and what you stand for. And maybe they don't want to work with you because of what you stand for. But guess what?
Right.
More people will want to work with you because of who you stand for and what you stand for than not. And I will tell you that since really sharing a lot of how I feel about being Jewish and certain aspects of my life, my business has more than like 10 times, like really and truly.
It's
like,
one of the reasons I connected to you,
right.
being a Jewish person also, is like, oh, we have that experience in common.
And so, you don't have to I don't want anyone to you don't have to totally go off a ledge and do something uncomfortable, but it's okay to share yourself.
And I think what a lot of times we miss when we're in that fear place and we're worrying about all the people that won't like us is we miss that if we're not shining our light, being a beacon, being, saying, this is who I am, like you're saying, not in a way where we're making ourselves feel overly vulnerable, but just sharing a little bit about who we are, then the people who will be like, oh, I relate to that about you, I connect to that about you, they won't be able to find us if we're not sharing that.
I think it's important for me to say this too, because I have been an advocate my entire life. Okay. I've been speaking out on social media for every single marginalized group, every cause that's important to me since social media started. I would say some of the bigger causes that I've spoke out about are, women's right to choose and gun control. I have a friend who was at ground zero of the Highland Park shooting on July 4th a few summers ago, and she couldn't share her story. Guess what? I stood up and shared her story, and I became a very big advocate for gun control. And I will tell you, when that happened, a lot of people didn't agree with me, but I didn't care. And I have so many friends from that aspect of my advocacy as well. And I will tell you, when you let your walls down and you let your guard down, the right people come to you and the right people magnetize towards you.
It's so, so true. And I wonder if there's some a story or a couple of stories you could tell without breaching anyone's confidentiality about women who've been in your programs who maybe have been afraid. And again, it doesn't have to be about revealing your politics or what it doesn't have to be anything. It's what you choose to share. Someone who is maybe tentative about telling their story, sharing about themselves, and then saw big positive transformation as a result of doing so.
Yes. So there's a lot that come to mind, truly, but I'm going to share. I'll share a couple with you. So one of them, and I will share because everyone should follow her, is Lindsay Metzger from L Studio Media. Everyone should follow her. She does social media for small business, and you know what? And people are like, you and Lindsay kind of overlap a little bit. Yeah, who cares? You know what I mean? We refer to each other all the time. She's my colleague. I love her. Lindsay came to me actually before October 7th, and we had a call before October 7th, 2023, and we had a call, and she was like, I don't know what to do. I do social media for small businesses, and I'm so good at it. And she shared all these stories with me. She's like, but I can't do it for myself. She's like, I can't. She's like, I just can't do it for myself. My account's private. She was like, I just can't bring myself to share myself. I'm worried about security. And so I said to her, give me a minute because I'm about to launch something and I think you're going to want to be a part of it. And she was the very first person that signed up for Marketing Made Simple. Lisa came into Marketing Made Simple and understood the assignment. I mean, she literally did everything that I asked them to do. She started sharing her story. She started an email marketing, an email list. She started showing up very consistently on social media, which as a social media manager, you have to, right? And so Lisa ended up creating a private account for her personal stuff, and she opened up L Studio Media publicly. And I mean, she's so good at what she does, and people love her, and she gives great tips online. And she now has like a full client load. She's launching group programs. Her phone is ringing off the hook. People within Marketing Made Simple, within the forum, are referring to her and are referring her to other people. She's very likable and very relatable. And guess what? Had she not showed up on social media in the way that she does, you wouldn't know that. And one of the things she talks about is like, she'll say like, I think a lot of people worry about what the mom next to you in the pickup line thinks of your social media.
Right.
And
yes,
really and truly, like, do you really give a shit? Like, do you even want to be friends with that mom? You know what I mean? And Lisi's done a beautiful job harnessing her own skills for herself, while helping clients. So that's one of them. Another one is Heather Reddish, who she before coming into Marketing Made Simple, she had a business called The Talent Maven. She's a recruiter. And actually, she helped me immensely when I was leaving the corporation who bought mine. That's when we first connected. So that's like her primary business. But when she was in Marketing Made Simple and she joined for The Talent Maven, she had this other idea. And her idea was Adulting 101 Masterclass. And basically what she does is she uses her recruiting skills and her HR skills, and she teaches recent college graduates, recent entrants to the workforce, not just how to find a job and how to stick a job, but how to function in the world. Because a lot of these kids do not know things like how to interview or how to ask for a raise or what to say if the boss asks you to come into their office, or what to wear to an interview. I mean, it's just like how to figure out how much rent you can afford. What is an FSA? I mean, like all these things, right? So she created this masterclass, and now it's been a year and a half of her showing up and sharing herself. And I think she was very hesitant at first, but she religiously shows up on Instagram, and she's amazing on LinkedIn. She has built an incredible LinkedIn presence. People are loving her LinkedIn. And she told me a couple weeks ago, she said, I finally feel like my phone's ringing off the hook. And, and that goes, and she said, and she also said to me, she goes, you told me something that I will never forget. You told me that this doesn't happen overnight. And she said, and people just need to recognize that. And so, she showed up and she shared vulnerable things. She talks about her family. She talks about her life, in New York before, getting married. And she has this amazing business now.
These are such great stories. They're really, really inspiring. And a question that I think is specific to my podcast audience, which tends to be sensitive people like me, the highly sensitive types. I can imagine listeners are hearing this and they're like, this is inspiring. And like, you have to show up all the time on social media. Like, I'm going to burn out, this fear of burnout. And I'm wondering if you can speak a little bit to the difference between consistency and burning ourselves out and how we navigate that.
You do not have to burn out. Okay. So the number two thing I say after share your story is to commit to a cadence. And it has to be a cadence that works for you. Okay. And I will tell you that cadence will become more as you create more content, which I'm going to get to in a minute. But especially when you're first starting, you commit to a cadence, and that might be twice a week. It might be 3 times a week, whatever it is. And when I say commit to a cadence, I mean in anything you're doing. So whether it's social media, whether it's your email, whether it's a blog post, whatever it is, whether it's doing podcast interviews, like you make that determination of what kind of bandwidth you have and what you can actually do without burning out. If you see that the cadence, for example, in terms of posting, if you say I'm going to post twice a week and you see it's doable, add a day. Or if you are committed to twice a week and something comes up that you want to share, just share it. You don't have to stick to the rules all the time, right? So as you create more content and as you get further and further along, one of the biggest things I tell my clients is that you have to repurpose. And so one of the things that I do religiously in the beginning of every month, I go back to last year at this time, and I also go back to 6 months ago. And I look at posts that are evergreen, meaning they can be posted whenever you want to post them. There's no time sensitivity. and posts that did well, and I will reshare them. Sometimes I just use the post straight up and I'll share them. Sometimes I'll like change the color scheme on the graphics. Sometimes I'll change the caption, but I'm not starting from scratch. And so now I'm in a place where I've been doing this piece, not even the Bump Club piece, and that, that's stories upon stories about being an entrepreneur. But this piece with Dear FoundHer, I've been doing. I announced Dear FoundHer in the fall of 2021, and I launched my first episode, which just started as a podcast in 2022. So now I have 4 years of content, and so I can go back and reshare things, and it's okay, because guess what? Sue sitting in New Jersey might not have followed you 6 months ago. And if she did, she might not, most likely didn't see your post that you made at, 9 a.m. on a Monday. And you're now sharing it at 11 p.m. on a Thursday. And people don't see. And even if they did see, guess what? They're not going to remember. Do you remember what you saw yesterday on social media? No. And people need to see and engage with things 5 to 7 times before they actually take action. So if it's something that resonates with them, they might even just think in their head, oh, I think I've seen this before and I loved it. And if they didn't like it, they're going to keep scrolling. So you really need to take advantage of the content that you're creating, especially if you're not a creator. Because if you're a business owner, which many of you are, many of the people who are in Dear FoundHer, most of them are business owners. They need to focus on their business. So you don't want to be on this content creation hamster wheel all the time. You can reuse the content you share.
I'm so glad that you hit home the reasons why it's useful to share it again. Your people need and want to see it again. And I mean, this is going to sound really silly, but I'll sometimes go back and read my own Instagram posts from 2 months ago. And I'm like, oh, I really need to hear that right now. Thank you, past me, for writing that down. And I'm so glad you went into detail about why this is useful, because I think a lot of people, and maybe especially over 40 women business owners, will initially think oh, maybe I'm cheating, or I'm half-assing it if I'm reusing stuff. And that's just not the case.
No, it's not the case at all. And I will tell you this, and I should have said this before, but when you share your story, and I recommend to my clients, once a month, you post a picture of yourself, and in the caption, you share your story. If you want to post a few pictures and put it on the carousel, fine, however you want to do it. When you make that post, that will be one of your most engaged posts. I'm sorry, 9 times out of 10, it will be one of your most engaged posts. And I've been doing this now long enough with small business owners to know that people are I don't know if I want to share. It's cringy, blah, blah. My kids say it's awful. Just share it. Share it, because people want to know about you.
They do. And they want your company. When I see a post from you, I'm like, oh, I feel like this person that I've been following and getting to know is showing up. They're not abandoning me. Here they are.
Yes. No, I really try not to abandon. Mm-hmm. I've been a little quiet over the last couple of days, but.
So we're getting to the wind down of this conversation, which I so appreciate having. And I have 3 final questions that I ask every guest who comes on. The first of which is, if there is a soapbox message that you're putting out there through just everything you do, all the work you do with your clients, your podcast, everything, what would that soapbox message be?
I'm going to give you 2. The first one is to just get started. I mean, if you are, whatever it is, it doesn't even have to be a business. It's whatever it is that you want to do, just seriously do it. Life is too short to not do it. So just get started, make it happen, do it. Okay. That's the first thing. And then I would say the second thing is be yourself always. Do not try to be someone else. Do not emulate someone else. Do not adapt or adopt someone else's messaging to be your own, because people see through it. And, the minute that you really put a stake in the ground and show up as you unconditionally, people love you and they want to follow you and they want to be in your presence, and you will start to see more of whatever it is that you're wanting and putting out into the world. And, and I say that having experienced this with both of my businesses. I as a mom, like people used to stop me on the streets all the time in Chicago. I'd be walking down Michigan Avenue and people would be like, "Oh my God, I read your gestational diabetes story. Thank you so much for sharing it." I mean, like it was kind of crazy, like people would, and it was like, that was when blogs were a thing. And now people stop me and, they stop me for my advocacy a lot. I was at O'Hare I think it was last week. And I was literally just standing there waiting for my coffee, and a woman, I saw her eyes got real big and she smiled at me. And I didn't know at first she was smiling at me. I still get really like, what, and,
Yeah.
And she didn't say anything, and she just looked at me and she put her hands together and she just mouthed, "Thank you." And that was it. And people don't do that when they don't feel like they know you.
Yeah.
So you have to be yourself for people to feel that engagement and interaction and attraction to whatever it is that you're putting out into the world.
It's so true. And something else that I'll say about this is when I heard you say that your second soapbox message is be yourself, hearing you say those words, I felt my shoulders drop. I felt myself exhale. And I thought, this is also the way to not burn out in your business. Because when you're trying to mask yourself or hide yourself or pretend to be someone you're not, that is very energy consuming and it's very exhausting and it feels very constricting. And when you're allowing yourself, like you said, to just be you, like you were talking about earlier, you show up on Instagram without makeup, with your hair in a bun.
I'll use a filter.
and using a filter, right? It's like the less efforting we're doing to contort ourselves, the more sustainable the business is, right?
Totally. Someone actually asked me the other day, they were like, "Oh my God," I was talking about something very serious actually, and they messaged me and they were like, "Your makeup looks," they were like, I know that you're talking about something very serious, but your makeup looks amazing." And I wrote back, "I'm wearing none and it's a filter and this is what it's called." So, and I was like, "Thank you so much." But yes, like to your point, like if you're constantly worried about how you put yourself out into the world, that's not being you. Like just be you.
Yeah.
I mean, like you love yourself enough to put yourself out there.
So beautiful. For the listener who is listening to this conversation and they're feeling inspired by you, like they're feeling inspired by your message to just do the thing, just life is too short, just go out and do it, be yourself, share your story. But they're also feeling overwhelmed, scared. Where do I even start? What words of encouragement do you have for that listener?
I would say to take a step back, because I think everyone can feel overwhelmed no matter what it is they're doing, right? Like I'm thinking about like the 3 or 4 things that I'm wanting to accomplish this summer in my business. And I was thinking about it this morning and I was like, I felt very overwhelmed by it. So I took a step back and I started making a list. I'm not done yet because we got on this podcast, but later today I will finish that list and I will write down like what steps do I need to take in order to accomplish this. So if it's just telling your story, okay, what steps do you need to take to make that happen? Sit down and write it out. Is it like block off an hour of time to write out my story, get an editor, have a friend edit it, whatever it might be, just whatever those steps are, break it down and cross it off as you go. You'll feel a lot better. You'll feel a lot less overwhelmed. And that can be really applied to any single thing that you do. This week I have like these networking events outside of Chicago once a month because they're easy and I'm here and I want to see my community. And we always pick a topic and we talk about it. And this week's topic is like how to succeed and in reaching your goals before the end of 2025. And that's one of the things that we're going to talk about is like writing down, 3 things you want to do and then how you can get there, what you need to do in order to get there.
Yeah. Reverse engineering it. Yeah. Before we get to the final question, is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't get to, that we didn't cover today?
No, I mean, I would just say like I would love to connect with you. So follow me on Instagram at Dear FoundHer, and I'm sure that you'll post it in the show notes.
Absolutely.
And if you have any questions about Dear FoundHer, the Dear FoundHer forum, which is our networking community, or about Marketing Made Simple, please reach out because I am totally accessible. I answer all my emails. I answer my DMs. Just reach out and I'm happy to answer them. It's an amazing, supportive community. I've never seen women really show up for each other the way that these women do. Like they share resources, they share contacts, they make connections. You know, people will say like, I'm looking for someone to connect me with so-and-so. Does anyone know anyone? And like people like come to their aid. It's amazing. It's an amazing group where everyone wants everyone to succeed. And I think it's very rare to find that.
Amazing. That was my final question is where can people find you and how can they reach out to you? And if they want to work with you, like what's step one? What's the literal step one?
Step one would be just to DM me or to email me, lindsay@lindsaypinchuk.com, or I'm changing around my websites a little bit, but you could go to lindsaypinchuk.com and there's a form and you can just fill it out and it comes into my inbox. But any of the ways, like I will see it and I will likely either send you a link to, get on my calendar for 30 minutes, or I'll send you information about the forum or Marketing Made Simple. But I would say follow me on Instagram because I think Dear FoundHer on Instagram is really where I post a lot of this stuff repeatedly.
Yes. And of course, they should listen to your podcast, Dear FoundHer.
Yes, thank you. And please listen to Dear FoundHer. It's definitely, as you know, Anna, a labor of love, and I love doing it, and that's why I do it.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited for you to come on.
I'm so excited. I can't wait. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for taking the time to speak with me, to share all of your wisdom and also your warmth and down-to-earth advice with this audience. I can't wait to speak with you again.
Thank you so much. This is just the start. If
you enjoyed today's episode, please do me a favor. Hit that follow button so you don't miss a thing and leave a rating or review. It helps more people find this show, and honestly, it makes my day. And if you're looking for more ways to trust yourself and start listening to that gut instinct of yours, come hang out with me on Instagram at Anna_Holtzman. Let's keep the conversation going. Thanks so much for listening, and until next time, trust yourself. You've got this.